So we found out in the last tutorial that it's really hard to return strings from functions because any variable that you create inside of a function is destroyed or goes out of scope as soon as that function exits. And that's because all of the variables that you create inside of a function are stored in a special place in memory called the stack. And as soon as you exit the function, everything in the stack gets cleared. So if you create a string and it's in the stack because you created it inside of a function, and then you return a pointer to that, as soon as that function exits, it's going to clear what's in the stack, which will be the contents of your string, and that causes a problem. So if we had a function that returns a string, and let's call this test actually. So this returns a string, and we're just going to return a string that we get from the user. And we tried this last time, and we got the error message that we were returning a reference to a local variable, which will be cleared as soon as the function returns. So let's read into this from standard input, and we'll return it. And we already know this. We already know that this program will not work because this variable here gets cleared as soon as this returns. So whatever calls this function here, we'll just get a pointer to garbage. It'll get a pointer to information in memory that no longer is used for anything. So I told you in the last tutorial that there's something called the stack and there's something called the heap. And now that you know what the stack is, we can get to the heap. And the heap is an area of memory that you have to allocate yourself. So the stack is all managed by the computer. You create variables and it worries about creating the memory space for them and then deleting the variables and freeing up that memory space when you exit the function. But with the heap, you have to allocate memory yourself and you have to free it up yourself. And if you don't free it up when you're done using it, you could eventually run out of memory in your program. So when you return a string from a function, you usually have to use the heap. And there's a function that's included in the standard library header file, and it's called malloc. M-A-L-L-O-C. And you tell it how many bytes of memory you want to get from the heap, and it will do that for you, and then you can use those to put information in, and you can return a pointer to that. And the information that is stored in the heap is only ever freed or destroyed when you specifically tell it to be destroyed. So the the malloc function works like this. It returns a pointer to a spot in memory, and you reserve the amount of memory like this. So this function, malloc, right here, this will reserve 32 bytes in memory for the string s. So now we can read 32 bytes from input into the string, and we can return it. And because the variable s is using the heap for storage instead of the stack, when we exit the function, we'll still be able to read what's in the variable s. So now let's create a function. We're going to create a call to this function here. We're going to call test, and then we're going to print it out. Last time we tried this, we just got nothing. And this time, if all goes well, we should get whatever string the user enters. Alright, so let's run this code. And you'll already note that we got no error message because we're using the heap instead of the stack. Now we'll run it, and we can input hello world, for example, and it prints out hello world. So this program does work. Alrighty, so in this tutorial we learned the difference between the stack and the heap. The stack is where local variables inside of functions are stored until the function returns, and after that they're cleared. And the heap is sort of a pool of available memory that you can allocate certain amounts of it for your own variables, and then they will only be freed when you specifically tell to free them. And if you don't tell the program to free those variables, you could eventually run out of memory. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you real quick how you can free what you allocate here with this function. Well, I hope that this tutorial has helped you to solve the problem of returning strings from functions, and I'll see you again in the next tutorial.